Last year, I showed you all my small, messy craft supply closet and how I cleaned it and organized it. So this year, I thought I'd share a few things that are still working and a few new storage and organizing ideas that I've incorporated this year. Let's start with a few things that I'm still using and loving from last year, which includes this paint storage ladder box that I created just using some Dollar Tree wood. I used 2 of Dollar Tree's long, thin pieces on the outside and 4 of their chunky wood pieces for the shelves, so I was able to just screw it all together. I drilled 2 holes in the bottom and added a dowel to hang a basket for my paint pens too. Another piece I love and still use is this twine and string holder I made using a Dollar Tree wood plaque and 2 dowels. I stained all of my pieces using a baby wipe and some antiquing wax to start. Then I used 2 eye hooks and screwed those into the tops of the dowels. I drilled 2 holes in the plaque using a drill bit, just big enough to fit the dowels, and I didn't drill all the way through. Then I just added some wood glue in the holes and sat my dowels down in there. And this has made the perfect little stand to hold my twine or my string while I'm using it. This next DIY is probably one that I still use most often. My glue gun holder has been through a lot over the past year, but it is still holding strong and I use it pretty much every time I make a video. I used a combination of Dollar Tree supplies for this, including a cutting board, some wood planks, some Jenga blocks, and a coaster. I started by gluing 2 of those Jenga blocks together, then glued 1 on each side. Then I took 4 more and made 2 more sets of 2. Then I'm going to be using 2 of those thin wood planks from Dollar Tree, and I glued 2 sets of the 2 to each end to make a box for that. And then I used some wood glue to attach the box to the wood cutting board. And as you can see, I just found it easier to add that second plank on after I had glued down those Jenga blocks to the cutting board. Once I had those glued down, I just used my glue gun to figure out the placement of the other Jenga blocks used to help hold the glue gun and glued that down to the cutting board too. I ended up painting the entire thing with some chalk paint in the color celery, then used some gel super glue to attach the coaster. One of the first things I added this year to my craft closet was this over-the-door shoe holder. It's just a basic one I got off of Amazon for a few bucks, but it's perfect for organizing all of my smaller holiday craft supplies. So if you have a craft closet or even just a smaller space to keep your craft supplies, this is a great solution. Earlier this year, I started storing all of my stencils and my rub-on transfers in this simple white binder that I got from Dollar Tree. But recently, I decided it was time to separate and organize these a little better into 2 white binders, but I also wanted to make these a little bit prettier. Inside these binders, I use just the plastic sleeve protectors to store my stencils and my transfers, and although it works just fine like this, the sleeve protectors are a little bit flimsy and I'd like to be able to use the front and back side. So I started by removing all the transfers and adding them to the new binder. And then I grabbed some thick cardstock and started adding sheets of this to each of the sleeves to make the sheets sturdier. And now I can divide 2 transfers into 1 pocket. After I went through and did all of the transfers, then I did the same thing for all of my stencils, just adding in some of those pieces of cardstock. Now to make this pretty, I grabbed some of my leftover wallpaper roll from Amazon. You may recognize this from the bathroom video I did, but I wanted to use this to cover my binders. Now the easiest way to do this is to start at one side of your binder, leaving an overhang of wallpaper, then just work your way all the way around the binder, smoothing out the wallpaper. And I just kind of used my hand and also this little Cricut tool from Dollar Tree just to work that paper and get any wrinkles out. But luckily, this wallpaper is actually really thick and really good, so there weren't that many. And once I was finished, I just went around it with a razor blade and cut off the excess. And finally, for these binders, I just wanted to add some labels to the spines and also to the fronts of them. So I cut down some brown cardstock in thinner strips for the spines and square pieces for the fronts, then wrote transfers on one and stencils on the other. Then I just used some gel super glue to attach these to my binders. A few weeks ago when I did my bathroom video, you may remember I used one of these larger candy containers from Dollar Tree for my soap bars, but while I was there, I picked up 3 of these smaller ones for my craft closet. I grabbed some more of that leftover wallpaper from Amazon that I just used on the binders and I also used in my bathroom video, and I just used the lid from one of these containers to trace out 3 circles and then cut those out. Once I had the 3 circles cut down, and then I just placed the pieces onto my lids and pushed them firmly down to make that center hole, and then I was able to remove the backing and place these pieces onto my lids, and then I just replaced those little knobs over top of them. And these little containers were perfect for storing all of my beads and small wood blocks in my craft closet. If you have a love for clear stamps like I do, then you'll love this next organizer I found on Amazon. I ended up purchasing 2 of these frosted folders, one for my everyday stamps and another for my holiday stamps. Each of these little binders has 80 5x7 size pockets, so a really good size for sheets of stamps. Now, the only thing about these is the front covers don't really stay closed, and you could just use a rubber band or something similar if you wanted, but I wanted to obviously make mine a little prettier while still being functional. So all I did was grab some of Dollar Tree's pretty lace ribbon, cut that in half, then wrapped a piece around the center of the book. Then I just used some gel super glue to secure the ribbon to the spine and tied a bow. Just a simple way to dress these up a little while making them functional. I don't have a ton of ribbon, and last year, as you can see here, I used a Dollar Tree basket and some dowels to organize my ribbon, and although that worked just fine, it still took up valuable shelf space in my craft closet. So I went to the thrift store with the intention of finding a pretty frame I could use to hang my ribbon from. However, I got super lucky that day and I ended up finding this wood rack hanger instead. Of course, I wanted to make it over a bit, so I started by taking everything apart. Unfortunately, there was a name engraved on the front of this, but I just decided to flip it over and use the back side. I used some wood filler to fill in all those old holes from the little hangers that were on the back of this, sanded it down once it was cured, and then I painted all of my pieces with Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. I decided to use some of this leftover vintage wallpaper that I had also from Amazon to cover that top piece anyway, so I guess it probably wouldn't have mattered which side I used, but either way I covered it and then used my razor blade to trim off any of the excess. For the hangers, I just used some of Dollar Tree's dowels and I spaced them to every other rack to fit the rolls of my ribbon. I also painted these in that same plaster color. While I was waiting for that to dry, I decided to add a little bit more detail to the top piece using a piece of drop cloth fabric and some pretty stamps that I also got from Amazon. So I just picked a few stamps for the drop cloth and then stamped that little piece there and attached it using some of Dollar Tree's velvet push pins. To finish off those dowels, I added these wood beads to each end of them. I didn't glue them down or anything to the dowels. Some of my ribbon wouldn't have fit over these beads anyway, but the holes ended up being nice and snug. For this final little organizational piece, I know you're probably thinking, why are you showing us sock drawer organizers? But these plastic drawer organizers with lids are absolutely perfect for storing all of your hardware. Now, I ordered this one by itself a while back, and now they don't have that particular one anymore, but I found a 3-pack of similar ones to this one that I have on Amazon, and I have that link below. And of course, once I found that 3-pack, I also ordered those, and I'm going to show you what I did with the other ones. But first, look at all the room in this little sock organizer. This one has 15 compartments and they're not small or shallow like the little organizers you find for crafting or like the little Dollar Tree ones. You can fit a ton of your supplies in here, and I even have bigger hardware like box feet and handles in here. They are a little more than the like fabric sort of drawer organizers, but they're also plastic, sturdy, and they come with a lid. As for the 3 more that I ordered recently, I used the one like the one I've just showed you, just putting in more hardware items, screws and things like that. Then I used the 10 grid one to organize my fabric scraps that I always have, and I'm always searching through my fabric scraps just in a drawer or here and there. So this was nice that I could organize them in here and easily find them. And then I used the other one that didn't have any grids to store my air dry clay molds. And you can see in here that I also have a couple of my clay molds in little plastic cases. You can find those in my description box below on my Amazon storefront as well. I just use those to store my smaller molds so they don't get lost anywhere. But these are so perfect to store all of this stuff in, and I can just stack these up in my craft closet. And that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this craft supply organization video and it gave you some inspiration to organize your own craft supplies. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.